Will the Senate please come to order? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Aquino. Senator Awa.
Here.
Senator Chang. Senator DeCoit. Senator Dela Cruz. Senator Elefante.
Here.
Senator Favela. Senator Fukunaga. Senator Gabbard. Senator Ihara.
Present.
Senator Inoue.
Present.
Senator Kanuha. Senator Keith Agaran. Senator Keoho Kalole.
Excused.
Senator Kidani. Senator Kim. Senator Lee. Senator McKelvey.
Aloha.
Senator Moriwaki. Senator Rhodes.
Excused.
Senator Richards. Senator San Buenaventura. Senator Shimabukuro. Senator Wakai. Senator Rhodes. Mr. President,
Present.
all 25 members are present.
So, Madam Clerk, I assume you're efficient and actually registered Senator Keoho Kalole as present, although I said excuse. I was so used to looking at him in the far corner, and that was actually Senator Rhodes, who has now been seated. So we have all 25 members. The chair has read the journal of the preceding day and approves the same. Are there any introductions this morning? If not, Madam Clerk.
House Communication Number 897 informs the Senate that the House has reconsidered its action in disagreeing to the amendments made by the Senate to House Bill 1081, House Draft 1.
File.
On pages 2 through 7, Conference Committee Report Numbers 172 to 202 for 48-hour notice.
So ordered.
On pages 7 through 12, Standing Committee Report Numbers 2018 to 2028 for one-day notice.
So ordered.
On page 13, Deferred Matters Advise and Consent, and on pages 13 and 14, Advise and Consent.
If there are no objections from the members, we will be taking advice and consent on consent.
Standing Committee
Mr.
Report.
President,
Senator Kim?
I rise in support of GM 600 and GM 601. Mr. President, I
I'm going
rise
to
in
just say, proceed on your personal privilege. We had not
Oh,
read.
sorry.
Madam Clerk, if we could get the GMs read first.
Standing Committee Report Numbers 2005 and 2013 to 2016 on Governor's Messages for Adoption.
Is there any discussion? Senator Kim?
Too anxious, Mr. President. Thank you very much. I rise in support of both GM 600 and GM 601. And
Please proceed.
for the nominee for the Board of Regents, Laurel Liu, she has a long history with the University of Hawaii since she was an undergraduate and graduate student during the 70s and 80s. She was born and raised on your island, Mr. President, Kauai. Going off to school at Manoa and experiencing dorm life was a new adventure for Laurel. Ambitious from the start, she was the editor-in-chief of the student newspaper Kaleo o Hawai'i and later education writer for the Honolulu Advertiser. Laurel also obtained her law degree at the William S. Richardson School of Law, where she was an editor of the University of Hawaii Law degree. During her time as an attorney, Laurel has trained various government and private boards and commissions in governance issues. Laurel is also a professionally trained mediator and per diem judge, the district and family courts of the Fifth Circuit. For her work in the justice system, Laurel was recognized by the Kauai Commission on the Status of Women and her alma mater, Waimea High School, as an outstanding community leader. Laurel's integrity, intelligence, commitment, and dedication has been attested to by individuals she has previously and currently worked with. During the past several months, while serving as an interim regent, Laurel has proven to be an outstanding addition to the board, so I urge my colleagues to advise and consent to her nomination to the Board of Regents of the University of Hawaii. I also rise in strong support of Abigail Mawai for the position of student regent on the University of Hawaii Board of Regents. Abigail is a native Hawaiian and has an accomplished history with the University of Hawaii, graduating cum laude with a BA in community ecology and serving as captain of UH's fellow Christian athletes. As a former Division I student athlete and as a current William Richardson School of Law student, Abigail has had ample preparation to be an advocate and voice for the student population in the decision-making process of the university. Abigail has already been serving as an interim student regent since her appointment by Governor Ige in 2022, during which she has helped formulate policies and exercise control over the 10-campus system. Abigail knows how to serve as a student liaison between UH student government and board and works diligently on the Committee for Academic and Student Affairs, Intercollegiate Athletics, and Research and Innovation. Her goal as a regent is to bring these perspectives to the decision-making process so that student voices and opinions are elevated and that the interests of the students are taken care of during the governing process. 3 qualities Abigail possesses are her leadership skills, determination, and commitment. As a proud graduate and current law student, Abigail is determined and committed to this university. Abigail's qualities have been attested by many individuals she has previously and currently works with. During the past several months while serving as an interim regent, Abigail has displayed her exceptional, outstanding role by asking the right questions and taking the right steps to represent the best of UH. So I urge my colleagues, please advise and consent to her nomination on the Board of Regents. Mahalo.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes?
25 ayes.
Thank you. The nominees for the respective governor's messages have been confirmed. Senator Kim.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce our student regent for the University of Hawaii, Abigail Mawai. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
On page 15, Standing Committee Report number 2017 on Governor's Message number 508, Nadine Ando, gubernatorial nominee as the Director of the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, for adoption.
Is there any discussion? Senator Keokalole.
Thank you, Mr. President. In support.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, your Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection finds that Ms. Ando's abilities, professional experience, and career accomplishments will be valuable assets to the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, the state, and its consumers and businesses. Ms. Ando has extensive background in commercial and real estate litigation, professional liability law, insurance coverage, products liability, and employment litigation, having been a partner with some of the state's most highly respected law firms over the course of her 40-year career as an attorney. Ms. Ando has also received consistent professional recognition for her work, having been listed in Best Lawyers of America and Super Lawyers for her commercial litigation practice since 2006 and 2008, respectively. At the time of her appointment as interim director in December, Ms. Ando was working as litigation counsel with the law firm of Fukunaga, Matayoshi, Ching, and Con Herrera, LLP. Ms. Ando serves on the advisory committee of the Bar Leadership Institute, is the lawyer delegate for the United States District Court Hawaii Judicial Conference, and previously served in multiple positions on the Hawaii State Bar Association Board of Directors, including as president, and now as the elected representative to and chair of the Hawaii State Judicial Selection Commission. Upon review of the testimony, your committee finds that Ms. Ando's background, experience, and commitment to public service qualify her for appointment as director of the DCCA. And Mr. President, perhaps the best thing I can say about the nominee is that she has shown a commitment to working with us in the legislature through the often bumpy legislative process to get to a point where we can communicate and work together in the public interest, while also acknowledging that we are going to have disagreements and that those disagreements cannot disrupt the need for us to keep open lines of communication and to maintain a collaborative working relationship. I think the department and the people of Hawaii will be better for it. Thank you very much, and I ask my colleagues to support her confirmation.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Senator San Buenaventura?
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in support with reservations.
Please proceed.
I understand that Ms. Ando has a lot of litigation experience, but I see no experience in the regulatory matters. At a time that we are coming out of a pandemic, we need DCCA more than ever. We need those permits to be issued timely. We need those licenses, those certifications to proceed efficiently. I understand that Ms. Ando is inheriting the problems with DCCA, and that is the reason why I will support her. And I'm hopeful that that our CPN chair's recognition of her commitment to the legislator will be followed through. Because it is with DCCA that our shortage of nursing staff has been exacerbated with a delay in processing their permits. It is with DCCA that our constituents who are having problems with getting their licenses through because now they really want to go to work is meeting 1 hour-long delays when calling DCCA. So I'm hopeful that Ms. Ando will follow through with her promises to us, and that's the reason I will support her, but this time it's with reservations.
Thank you. Further discussion? Senator McKelvey,
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to rise in support of the nominee.
please proceed.
It's pretty well known to everybody. I did not come to this at all. In fact, I was in strong opposition for a good chunk of the session and shared many of the concerns that were echoed by my colleague from Puna as well as the chair of CPN. But, you know, he did his due diligence and had numerous hearings on the nominee, asking numerous questions across all the spectrums. However, I think during that time, she has risen to the challenge and shown us that she can, in the words of the CPN chair, do the job. It was in a meeting with her about an unrelated bill that she brought up the process of the nurse licensing and the inequities that have been basically digitized, for lack of a better word. And her belief that to take an affirmative role in going out and looking what other states have done and working with other vendors to create a more streamlined and responsive system. She, I think that to me, having that outside perspective and that now new willingness, also she's done is she's surrounding herself with people to advise her and work with her who have a deep, rich knowledge of the DCCA. And there's a lot of problems, as you've heard earlier, that are going on. We have numerous other problems that DCCA will be the point entity for our constituents. But I'm hopeful that she will continue the growth pattern that she's been on, and I share the confidence of the CPN chair in supporting him and the others in the nomination today. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Reservations for Senators Morawaki, San Buenaventura, and Kim. Any no votes?
25 ayes.
Thank you. Nadine Ando has been confirmed as the Director of the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. Senator Ke'eho Kalole.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the gallery, I'd like to introduce our new Director of the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, Nadine Ando. Also joining her in the gallery, I'd like to introduce and have them all please rise to be recognized, the Deputy Director of the DCCA, Dean Hazama. And also a number of supporters and members of the DCCA. If you're here supporting the director, please rise and be recognized by the Senate. Thank you. Oh, and Mr. President, please at the appropriate time, I'd like to request a recess so that we can have the director come down and we can welcome her. Thank you.
So ordered, and just so that new Director Ando knows the timing, we have several floor amendments that are time sensitive that we will take up. When we conclude the floor amendment process, we will recess and have her escorted to the floor to be greeted by the members of the Senate. Madam Clerk?
Beginning on page 15, floor amendments. Conference Committee Report number 108, final reading of House Bill 933, Conference Draft 1, relating to telecommunications access for individuals with print disabilities.
Senator Ke'eho Kalole.
Mr. President, I wish to offer a floor amendment to House Bill 933 CD1.
Madam Clerk, please identify the amendment.
Floor amendment number 14, proposing an amendment to House Bill number 933, Conference Draft 1, copies of which have been distributed to the members.
Senator Ke'eho Kalole.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that floor amendment number 14 be adopted.
Senator Kanua.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator Ke'eho Kalole.
Thank you, Mr. President. Upon review of the final conference committee report, clarifications to the funding mechanism on this bill were necessary, justifying the floor amendment. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Any objection? If not, the motion is carried. Floor amendment number 14 has been adopted. Senator Keoho Kalole.
Mr. President, I move to separate House Bill 933 CD1 from Conference Committee Report number 108.
Senator Kanuha.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. The clerk is directed to file Conference Committee Report number 108. 48 hours notice is hereby given for final reading of House Bill number 933 CD2.
Conference Committee Report Number 137, final reading of House Bill 1366, Conference Draft 1, relating to homelessness.
Senator San Buenaventura.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to offer a floor amendment to HB number 1366 CD1.
Madam Clerk, please identify the amendment.
Floor Amendment Number 8, proposing an amendment to House Bill 1366, Conference Draft 1, copies of which have been distributed to the members.
Senator San Buenaventura.
Mr. President, I move that floor amendment number 8 be adopted.
Senator Morawaki.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator San Buenaventura.
Thank you. The floor amendment is made necessary to ensure that funding clarification issued by our money committees is clarified in the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. Floor amendment number 8 has been adopted. Senator San Buenaventura.
Mr. President, I move to separate HB number 1366 CD1 from Conference Committee Report number 137.
Senator Morawaki.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. The clerk is directed to file Conference Committee Report number 137. 48 hours notice is hereby given for final reading of HB number 1366 CD2.
Conference Committee Report Number 138, final reading of House Bill 870, Conference Draft 1, relating to the Neighbor Islands Blind and Visually Impaired Service Pilot Program.
Senator San Buenaventura.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to offer a floor amendment to HB number 870 CD1.
Madam Clerk, please identify the amendment.
Floor Amendment Number 9, proposing an amendment to House Bill 870, Conference Draft 1, copies of which have been distributed to the members.
Senator San Buenaventura.
Mr. President, I move that floor amendment number 9 be adopted.
Senator Decoit.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator San Buenaventura.
Thank you. Like the previous amendment, this amendment is being offered to clarify the financial figures that is in HB 870 HD2 SD1 CD1.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. Floor Amendment number 9 has been adopted. Senator San Buenaventura.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to separate HB number 870 CD1 from Conference Committee Report number 138.
Senator Decoit.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. The clerk is directed to file Conference Committee Report number 138. 48 hours notice is hereby given for final reading of HB number 870 CD2.
On page 16, Conference Committee Report Number 143, final reading of House Bill 676, Conference Draft 1, relating to district boundary amendments.
Senator Inoy.
Mr. President, I wish to offer a floor amendment to HB number 676, Conference Draft 1.
Madam Clerk, please identify the amendment.
Floor Amendment Number 10, proposing an amendment to House Bill 676, Conference Draft 1, copies of which have been distributed to the members.
Senator Inoy.
Mr. President, I move that floor amendment number 10 be adopted.
Senator Elefante.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator Inoy.
Mr. President, I rise in strong support of the floor amendment. HB 676 was introduced to incentivize each county to entitle and to invest infrastructure on county-owned lands for the purpose of creating affordable housing. During the drafting of the latest conference draft, a provision was added to ensure counties addressed state impacts if they were given the power to bypass this land use commission, in addition to all the other requirements that were already included in the bill, which is for affordable housing. This was added as an additional section and not a subsection. This request to amend the conference draft came from the Land Use Commission. While there might be confusion now with the current language, I believe this amendment makes clear the legislative intent of the conference committee to have the counties take on more accountability, not less. It was never the intent to make the process less transparent, and I believe this amendment makes this clear. This amendment will now ensure that the counties issue a finding that it considered all impacts that the Land Use Commission would have considered under a petition to the Land Use Commission for a district boundary amendment, in addition to the 7 other requirements as included in the bill. Mr. President, I humbly ask for the support of my colleagues.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Senator McKelvey?
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in opposition to the floor amendment.
Please
and,
proceed.
While I appreciate the work that's being done on the measure, I've not read the floor amendment yet, so I don't feel comfortable in supporting it this time. I think, however, that the Senate Draft 1 of this measure is something that everybody seemed to agree upon, and I think it's something that should be perhaps looked at again. I also think that there's a lot of things that have been put into this measure now, both in conference and in the floor amendment, that the public hasn't had a chance to weigh in on. So at this time, I'm just going to have to regretfully not be able to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator Kidani?
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have the remarks of the previous speaker entered into the journal as my own?
So ordered. Further discussion, Senator Decoy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Likewise, can I have the remarks of the senator from the West Side be inserted to the journal as if it was my own? And I'd like to also add that, you know, we're talking about 100 acres, and while I am in full support of housing and affordable housing, we've had many challenges, as you know, within the past years of encroaching on those ag lands. There's farms that exist, we have housing that come up, and we have tenants or people that continue to make those complaints in a time when we are trying to grow food for food sustainability and to do what we have to do to feed the people of Hawaii. I think at this time, there's several challenges here that not just myself, but many of my constituents have been faced with. For those reasons, I'm in opposition, and I want to also insert comments to the journal.
So ordered on
Thank
the
you.
comments into the journal. Thank you. Any further discussion? Senator Favela.
Yeah, thank you, Senate President. I'm also against the amendment. You know, we so fast to criticize on our moving and having affordable homes, and we just want to just go into stuff with 100 acres and then going that way. In my community, you know, I wasn't the leader at the time, but if I was the leader, we would have been a little bit more overlooked on how we're just destroying and taking away a lot of our ag land. And there's also for affordable housing. When there's a lot of opportunities in a lot of places on Barbers Point and other places in the community that is empty, but it stay there stagnant, but then we're gonna go and try to get 100 acres or so of ag land because we need affordable homes. We should do a little bit more homework in the places that is abandoned, places that don't even have people living in the homes, and apartment buildings that is abandoned. And let's go for that first, before we start going to our precious ag land that every year that I've been here, been saying from the WAM chair, how much ag land do we need to develop so that we can be sustainable? In this building, we talk about being sustainable with agriculture and trying to compete. We're not having overseas a product, but where do we put our mouth there? Zero. We talk about it in this building, but every single year, I listen to the WAM chair ask the agriculture people how much land we need to sustain our island, to sustain our communities, to sustain Hawaii for ag, and nothing has ever been really going forward. By doing this and not really allowing the community and other people to weigh in on this, I think it's going to be a travesty to our community and to our ag lands. Thank you, Senate President.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, any objections? I have objections from Senators Favela, Senator Decoit, Senator McKelvey, Senator Kidani. Any other objections? Senator Awa, Senator Kim, Senator Shimabukuro. Reservations for Senator Dela Cruz. The motion has been adopted. Senator Inouye.
Separate HB 676, Conference Draft 1, from Conference Committee Report Number 143.
Senator Elefante.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. The clerk is directed to file Conference Committee Report Number 143. 48 hours notice is hereby given for final reading of House Bill Number 676 CD2.
Conference Committee Report Number 145, final reading of House Bill 600, Conference Draft 1, relating to safe routes to schools.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to offer a floor amendment to HB 600 CD1.
Madam Clerk, please identify the amendment.
Floor Amendment Number 11, proposing an amendment to House Bill 600, Conference Draft 1, copies of which have been distributed to the members.
Senator Inouye. Thank you, Senator Lee first, and then the second will follow. I got ahead of myself.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that floor amendment number 11 be adopted.
Madam Clerk, please identify the floor amendment. Senator Inouye.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This floor amendment will make clarifying technical amendments to the measure as well. Department of Transportation did ask for a little bit of flexibility in the transition, so the floor amendment would also provide a delayed effective date for one portion of the measure.
Any further discussion? If not, any objections? The motion is carried. Floor amendment number 11 has been adopted. Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to separate HB 600 CD1 from Conference Committee Report number 145.
Senator Inouye. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. The clerk is directed to file Conference Committee Report number 145. 48 hours notice is hereby given for final reading of HB number 600 CD2.
Conference Committee Report Number 148, final reading of House Bill 554, Conference Draft 1, relating to campus safety.
Senator Kim.
Mr. President, I offer a floor amendment to House Bill number 554, CD1.
Madam Clerk, please identify the amendment.
Floor Amendment Number 12, proposing an amendment to House Bill 554, Conference Draft 1, copies of which have been distributed to the members.
Senator Kim.
Mr. President, I move that floor amendment number 12 be adopted.
Senator Kidani. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator Kim.
Mr. President, this floor amendment is to ensure the proper MOF or mode of funding is reflected in the final version of the measure respective to the WAMFIN release memo. The financial release memo stated B funds to be used, but the use of general funds was what was being reflected.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. Floor Amendment number 12 has been adopted. Senator Kim.
Mr. President, I move to separate House Bill 554 CD1 from Conference Committee Report number 148.
Senator Kidani.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. The clerk is directed to file Conference Committee Report number 148. 48 hours notice is hereby given for final reading of HB number 554 CD2.
Conference Committee Report Number 168, final reading of Senate Bill 945, Conference Draft 1, relating to special purpose digital currency licensure.
Senator Keoho Kalole.
Mr. President, I wish to offer a floor amendment to SB 945 CD1.
Madam Clerk, please identify the amendment.
Floor Amendment Number 13, proposing an amendment to Senate Bill 945, Conference Draft 1, copies of which have been distributed to the members.
Senator Keoho Kalole.
Mr. President, I move that floor amendment number 13 be adopted.
Senator Kanuha.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Senator Keoho Kalole.
Thank you, Mr. President. The floor amendment is being submitted in order to clarify the appropriation language in the measure to comport with the WAMFIN conference memo. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. Floor Amendment number 13 has been adopted. Senator Keoho Kalole.
Mr. President, I move to separate SB 945 CD1 from Conference Committee Report Number 168.
Senator Kanuha.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Objections? If not, the motion is carried. The clerk is directed to file Conference Committee Report Number 168. 48 hours notice is hereby given for final reading of SB number 945, CD2, before proceeding to the consent and ordinary calendar and final reading. If there are no objections, I will call for a recess to meet new Director Ando. Will the Senate please come to order, Madam Clerk?
On pages 17 to 33, final reading of the non-fiscal consent calendar. Final reading beginning with Conference Committee Report Number 2 on Senate Bill 1381, Conference Draft 1 on page 17, to Conference Committee Report Number 170 on Senate Bill 599, Conference Draft 1 on page 33.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservation? Senator Keith Agaran.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to insert into the journal remarks on Report 88 and Report 135.
So ordered. Further discussion? Again, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Senator, you had discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Senate President. Register my no vote for Senate Bill 182 SD1, HD1, CD1. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes?
Except for no vote on Senate Bill
182.
182. There's 24 ayes and 1 no. All the rest are 25 ayes.
Thank you. All bills on the non-fiscal consent calendar from SB 1381 CD1 on page 17 to SB 599 CD1 on page 33 pass final reading. No objection, short recess. Will the Senate please come back into order, Madam Clerk?
Final reading of the non-fiscal ordinary calendar beginning on page 33. Conference Committee Report Number 3, final reading of Senate Bill 109, Conference Draft 1, relating to gender-neutral terminology.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No votes for Senators Favela, Awa, and Gabbard.
22 ayes, 22 ayes, 3 noes.
Thank you. SB 109 CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 4, final reading of Senate Bill 110, Conference Draft 1, relating to gender-neutral terminology.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No votes for Senator Favela, Awa, and Gabbard.
22 ayes, 3 noes.
Thank you. SB 110 CD1 passes final reading.
On page 34, Conference Committee Report Number 5, final reading of Senate Bill 203, Conference Draft 1, relating to complaints alleging violations of campaign spending laws.
Is there any discussion? If If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? Senator Awa, no vote.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 203, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 6, final reading of Senate Bill 1189, Conference Draft 1, relating to campaign finance.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Favela.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 1189, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 19, final reading of Senate Bill 497, Conference Draft 1, relating to commercial vehicles.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No votes, Senator Favela. Senator Awa.
23 ayes, 2 noes.
Thank you. SB 497, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 25, final reading of Senate Bill 691, Conference Draft 1, relating to efficiency standards.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 691, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 28, final reading of Senate Bill 473, Conference Draft 1, relating to the practice of pharmacy.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Reservation for Senator McKelvey. Any no votes?
25 ayes.
Thank you. SB 473, CD1 passes final reading.
On page 35, Conference Committee Report Number 29, final reading of Senate Bill 1344, Conference Draft 1, relating to educational health services.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 1344, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 30, final reading of Senate Bill 1468, Conference Draft 1, relating to right of entry for professional surveyors.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 1468, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 32, final reading of Senate Bill 1079, Conference Draft 1, relating to expungement.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 1079, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 35, final reading of Senate Bill 19, Conference Draft 1, relating to cast ballots.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 19, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 36, final reading of Senate Bill 141, Conference Draft 1, relating to elections.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 141, CD1 passes final reading.
On page 36, Conference Committee Report Number 42, final reading of House Bill 1088, Conference Draft 1, relating to declaration of water shortage and emergency.
Is there any discussion? Senator Elefante.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition.
Please proceed.
This is to Conference Committee Report Number 42, House Bill 1088. I'd like my remarks be inserted into the journal.
So ordered. Further
Thank you.
discussion? Any, or do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Reservations for Senator Decoit? Any no votes besides Senator Elefante, Senator Awa, Senator McKelvey, Senator Gabbard?
21 ayes, 4 noes.
Thank you. HB 1088, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 43, final reading of House Bill 717, Conference Draft 1, relating to nepotism.
Is there any discussion? Senator Kehoe-Kalole.
Thank you, Mr. President. In support with reservations.
Please proceed.
Quick note, this is a commission to improve standards of conduct bill. I support the measure, except that I think exempting the legislature from this measure is the wrong move. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator Kim.
Mr. President, I
and then
rise
Senator
with
McKelvey.
reservations.
Please proceed.
I ask that the words of the previous speaker be entered into the journal as my own. Thank you.
So ordered. Senator McKelvey,
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise with reservations
please proceed.
and would like the previous requests as well to enter the words of the CP and share in the journals if they were my own.
So ordered. Senator Inouye, same request.
Yes, thank
So
you
ordered.
with reservations.
Senator Kidani, Senator Decoit, Senator Kanuha, Senator Elefante, Senator Chang, Fukunaga, San Buenaventura, and Shimabukuro would also like to have the words of the senator from Kaneohe entered as if they were their own. Senator Dela Cruz, same request? So ordered. Senator Favela. Okay, let's make this easy for the clerk. Who does not want to have the words of the senator from Kaneohe entered as their own in the journal? So we'll just, so we have Senator McKelvey, I said do not want to have. So unless we're gonna have 24 members reflect the words of the senator from Kaneohe. Do we have,
Yeah, go ahead.
yes, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Reservations, Senator Kanuha, Favela, Elefante, McKelvey, Chang, Fukunaga, San Buenaventura, Aquino, Inouye, Lee, Kim, Gabbard, Decoit, Wakai, Shimabukuro, Kidani, Keohokalole, Keith Agaran, and Dela Cruz.
25 ayes.
Thank you. HB 717, CD1, passes final reading. Madam Clerk, before reading the next bill, again, and trying not to influence the vote, I would again say in the operation manual of the Senate, we do not permit nepotism in our operation, and so I understand the reservations that were expressed by the members of the Senate, since this would not affect us, exempting us in any way, because we already do that as a function of how we run our operation. Next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Conference Committee Report Number 45, final reading of House Bill 1294, Conference Draft 1 relating to elections.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. HB 1294, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 46, final reading of House Bill 1502, Conference Draft 1 relating to evidence.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we, Senator San Buenaventura,
I rise in support with reservations.
please proceed.
I do not want, with the rise of fake news and what has happened with Alex Jones's trial and what has happened in Tucker Carlson's, I do not want the newscasters or journalists to think of this bill as a license to purvey fake news. And I'm hoping that we protect the good journalists and not the purveyors of fake news to see this as a shield for them preventing disclosure of fake sources.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Reservations, Senator San Buenaventura, Senators Favela, McKelvey, Kim, Decoit, Dela Cruz. No vote for Senator Inouye. Oh, reservations for Senator Inouye. Any no votes?
25 ayes.
Thank you. HB 1502, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 47, final reading of House Bill 1027, Conference Draft 1 relating to Money Transmitters Modernization Act.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. HB 1027, CD1, passes final reading.
On page 37, Conference Committee Report Number 54, final reading of Senate Bill 105, Conference Draft 1 relating to education.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 105, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 57, final reading of Senate Bill 944, Conference Draft 1 relating to the Uniform Parentage Act.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes?
25 ayes.
Thank you. SB 944, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 61, final reading of Senate Bill 655, Conference Draft 1, relating to hemp.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes?
25 ayes.
Thank you. SB 655, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 63, final reading of House Bill 161, Conference Draft 1, relating to collective bargaining.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any reservations for, any no votes? No vote for Senator Ihara.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. HB 161, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 65, final reading of House Bill 369, Conference Draft 1, relating to the Public Utilities Commission.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Reservations for Senator Ihara, Senator DeCoit, Senator McKelvey. Any no votes?
25 ayes.
Thank you. HB 369, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 69, final reading of House Bill 349, Conference Draft 1, relating to children.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we, Senator San Buenaventura,
I stand in strong support.
please proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. I request that my colleagues support this measure because prior to this bill, the only way for minors who could be abused or who earn more than their parents or be financially abused would be to marry. So until this bill is passed, the only way minors could to protect themselves from overreaching parents is to marry out. So thank you very much. Request your support.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. HB 349, CD1, passes final reading.
On page 38, Conference Committee Report Number 70, final reading of House Bill 1184, Conference Draft 1, relating to procurement.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Reservations for Senator Kim. Any no votes? Reservations for Senators Kim and Ihara.
25,
Oh,
I'm sorry,
again, no votes?
25 ayes.
Thank you. HB 1184, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 86, final reading of House Bill 503, Conference Draft 1, relating to computer science education.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? Oh, reservations for Senator Favela.
25 ayes.
Thank you. HB 503, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 98, final reading of House Bill 1183, Conference Draft 1, relating to state parks.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Reservations for Senator McKelvey. Any no votes? No vote for Senator Ihara.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. HB 1183, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 100, final reading of Senate Bill 764, Conference Draft 1, relating to affordable housing.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? Or reservations for Senator Favela, no vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 764, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report 101, final reading of Senate Bill 1502, Conference Draft 1, relating to transportation.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 1502, CD1, passes final reading.
On page 39, Conference Committee Report Number 103, final reading of Senate Bill 696, Conference Draft 1, relating to workers' compensation.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we, oh, Senator San Buenaventura.
Request a ruling on a conflict. The conflict is that my husband is a volunteer firefighter.
He's in a class of volunteers and not personally benefiting, so no conflict. Further discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes?
25 ayes.
Thank you. SB 696, CD1, passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report 104, final reading of Senate Bill 1383, Conference Draft 1, relating to the Hawaii Employment Security Law.
Is there any discussion? Senator San Buenaventura,
Sorry, I stand in opposition.
please proceed.
At a time when employers are reeling because of the pandemic, this is a slippery slope requiring 0.01% an additional tax on gross wages that they're already having difficulty filling. And as such, I see it as a slippery slope to tax them on something that they have no ability to prevent. The employment security law was meant to protect those who are laid off or fired unjustly. A 0.01% tax on technology that they have no ability to control, I don't think rises to the purpose of the employment security law, and as such, I'm in opposition.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. President. In opposition as well.
Please proceed.
Would like the comments of the previous speaker entered in the journal as if they were my own.
So ordered.
And I think if we're going to modernize IT in different departments, we should be doing it through general appropriations and other ways that will give us the legislative oversight necessary to ensure it's being done properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator Decoit.
Thank you, Mr. President. In opposition,
Please proceed.
permission to insert comments to the journal.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Further discussion, Senator Inouye.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition as well, and may I have the comments from the senator from Puna be introduced into the journal as if my own. It's just not the right time as well to raise taxes. Thank you.
So ordered. Further discussion, Senator Moriwaki.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in strong support of this
Please-
measure.
Please proceed.
As you know, we came through the pandemic with a very old legacy system. The federal government does provide for grants to the states for non-personal services, but that money, all of it that we collect from employers for their employees, goes to pay for employees when they are unemployed. So there is very little that is for the infrastructure that we need to stand up our technology system so we can help claimants who came through the pandemic and could not get their claims processed because of an old system. We also help with the technology, the employers who have to quarterly report the wages and the benefits that are charged to their employees. Without the state support of this kind of program, we are going to always be behind, and we are not serving our people. So I ask my colleagues to join me in voting for this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator Richards.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in opposition.
Please proceed.
Yeah, I think the reasonings have been echoed, and I agree with my colleague from Puna. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Reservations for Senators Elefante, Fukunaga, Aquino, Kidani. No votes. Senators Richards, Awa, McKelvey, San Buenaventura, Inouye, Kim, Decoit, Wakai, and Keohokalole.
16 ayes, 9 noes.
Thank you. SB 1383, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 110, final reading of Senate Bill 1254, Conference Draft 1, relating to the Kaiwi Coast.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes?
25,
No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 1254, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 112, final reading of Senate Bill 483, Conference Draft 1, relating to the Uniform Probate Code.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 483, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 113, final reading of Senate Bill 211, Conference Draft 1, relating to the Employees Retirement System.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Did you have, stretching the arm. Any no votes? Senator Favela.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 211, CD1 passes final reading.
On page 40, Conference Committee Report Number 114, final reading of Senate Bill 1313, Conference Draft 1, relating to the Hawaii Employer Union Health Benefits Trust Fund.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 1313, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 117, final reading of House Bill 307, Conference Draft 1, relating to agricultural park leases.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa and Senator Ihara.
23 ayes, 2 noes.
Thank you. HB 307, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 121, final reading of House Bill 1101, Conference Draft 1, relating to stormwater fees.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. HB 1101, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 125, final reading of Senate Bill 968, Conference Draft 1, relating to transportation.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 968, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 128, final reading of Senate Bill 1230, Conference Draft 1, relating to firearms.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Reservations for Senator Decoit. Any no votes? No vote for Senators Favela, Awa, Gabbard.
22 ayes, 3 noes.
Thank you. SB 1230, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 132, final reading of House Bill 1363, Conference Draft 1, relating to taxation.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa and Senator Kim.
23 ayes, 2 noes.
Thank you. HB 1363, CD1 passes final reading.
On page 41, Conference Committee Report Number 158, final reading of House Bill 388, Conference Draft 1, relating to education.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. HB 388, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 167, final reading of Senate Bill 1024, Conference Draft 1, relating to transportation.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Senator Awa.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. SB 1024, CD1 passes final reading.
Conference Committee Report Number 171, final reading of Senate Bill 729, Conference Draft 1, relating to board members.
Is there any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? Any reservations? Any no votes? No votes for Senators Favela and Awa.
23 ayes, 2 noes.
Thank you. SB 729, CD1 passes final reading.
On pages 42 to 49, final reading of the fiscal calendar.
Members, final reading of all bills on the fiscal calendar is deferred to Thursday, May 4th, and will be taken up after the executive budget bill is enrolled to the governor.
Referrals and re-referrals.
Referrals and re-referrals are made in accordance with the supplemental orders of the day that may be filed later today.
On page 50, miscellaneous communication numbers 1 and 2 transmit legislative communications from the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, extending the 2023 Conference Committee report and conference draft filing deadlines.
File.
Also on page 50, miscellaneous business, reconsideration of a disagreement to House amendments and motion to agree. Mr. President, I'm in receipt of the record of votes for Senate Bill 1268, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 2, relating to agricultural lands. A quorum was present, and a majority of the managers voted to recommend that the Senate agree to the House amendments.
The clerk is directed to file said record of votes and place the same in the journal. Senator Gabbard.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate reconsider its previous action in disagreeing to the amendments made by the House to SB 1268 SD1 and agree to said amendments.
Senator Wakai.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator Gabbard.
Mr. President, this revision will allow the DOA to Department of Ag to better support and promote agricultural activity through increased management and control of the ag lands currently under its jurisdiction.
Is there any further discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. One-day notice is hereby given for final reading of SB number 1268 HD2.
On page 51, Senate Concurrent Resolution number 92, House Draft 1.
Senator Gabbard.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate reconsider its previous action in disagreeing to the amendments made by the House to SCR number 92 and agree to said amendments.
Senator Wakai.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator Gabbard.
Colleagues, this revision will create a working group to address the increase of feral chickens and roosters on the island of Oahu. It'll provide the framework for the city and county of Honolulu to humanely trap and release feral chickens and roosters should the funding become available.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. One-day notice is hereby given for final adoption of SCR 92 HD1.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 55, House Draft 1.
Senator Chang.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate reconsider its previous action in disagreeing to the amendments made by the House to SCR 55 and agree to said amendments.
Senator Wakai.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator Chang.
Thank you. The amendments simply identify the correct federal agency responsible for capital improvement projects.
Is there any further discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. One-day notice is hereby given for final adoption of SCR 55 HD1.
Senate Concurrent Resolution numbers 17, House Draft 1, and 18, House Draft 1.
Senator Ke'eho Kalole.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate reconsider its previous action in disagreeing to the amendments made by the House to SCR 17 SD1 and SCR 18 SD1.
Senator Wakai.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator Ke'eho Kalole.
Mr. President, the House amendments are okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any objections? If not, the motion is carried. One-day notice is hereby given for final adoption of said resolutions.
On page 52, under miscellaneous business, veto override of Senate Bill 921 relating to limitation of actions.
Senator Kanuha.
Mr. President, in accordance with Article 3, Section 17 of the Hawaii State Constitution, I move that the Senate override the veto of SB 921 as contained in Governor's Message number 1128.
Senator Wakai.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? And well, this is the first time we're taking it up. When you vote yes or aye, you are voting in favor of overriding the veto of the governor. So this is a yes means yes and a no means no motion. Senator Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. President. In support of the override.
Please proceed.
The underlying measure, the veto hurts a very narrow group of condominium purchasers, but it can hurt them pretty badly because it transfers liability for construction mistakes to them, and they may end up having to pay large special assessments. Any cost savings to the developer is because the developers have transferred liability for defective construction to the purchasers, the very people that the developers are saying that they're trying to help. So I hope everyone will vote for the override. Mahalo.
Thank you, Senator Ke'eho Kalole.
Thank you, Mr. President, in support. To to echo the sentiments of the Judiciary Chair, these are, again, very narrow circumstances, in which case the result is really, really unjust in terms of outcome. These are situations where 6, 7, 8 years later, there is an obvious construction defect that was caused by the developer. And the developer in these situations is able to avoid responsibility for it, in which case all of the residents of these condominiums are going to be required to foot the bill and provide some accountability where it's not due. And it only takes place in these situations where these unfortunate individuals fall into this category. So for those reasons, I agree and ask you to support overriding the veto. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to stand in support of the veto override.
Please proceed.
I would like the words of the previous speakers entered in the journal as if they were my own.
So ordered.
And after the veto was issued, I got contacts and communications, as my friend from the Big Island says, from several condo owners who are now stuck with huge construction defects, unshielded coaxial cables, cracks in swimming pools, foundation work, parking lots that don't drain properly, expenses and costs that are going to absolutely crush them and eliminate their reserves. Now on top of that, you have the increase of insurance rates upon all the condominium owners, including them, which only makes a bad situation worse. I'm proud of the work that we do for consumer protection. This measure is a consumer protection issue. It's a justice issue and a responsibility issue. So with that, I stand in support of the override. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator San Buenaventura.
I also stand in strong support, and I'd like to echo Judiciary Chairs and CPN Chairs' remarks, but I'd also like to add that the narrow group of individuals, the reason why we need to override the veto is because the statute of repose, which is a statute of repose versus the statute of limitations, is because the developers had retained majority control on the board. So even when the condo owners know that there is a defect during the 6 to 7 years, because the developer remained in the board, they were able to prevent the kind of actions against themselves. And that's the reason that this bill is necessary, and it is a justice measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Morawaki.
I too would like to echo the CPN and the Judiciary Chair's remarks with my own. We have seen situations in which new owners, not knowing the defects, have learned of it later and have not been able to do anything about it. So we really would like to support our condo owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Before continuing, I just want to be clear when both Senators San Buenaventura and Morawaki said echo the Judiciary and CPN Chair, did you want their remarks entered into the journal as if they were your own and then we have your remarks, or were you just echoing and then making your remarks?
Just echoing for myself.
For yourself. Senator Morawaki, I think you were referring to wanting them in the journal? So ordered for Senator Morawaki to have the Judiciary Chair and the CPN's Chair's remarks entered into the journal as if they were her own. Any further discussion? Senator Kidani. If your microphone, please. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in strong support and
Please
would like to
proceed.
have the remarks of the CPN Chair and Judge Chair entered into the journal as if they were my own.
So ordered for the discussion. If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Aquino. Senator Awa.
Aye.
Senator Chang. Senator DeCoit.
Aye.
Senator Dela Cruz. Senator Elefante.
Aye.
Senator Favela. Yes. Senator Fukunaga. Senator Gabbard. Senator Ihara.
Aye.
Senator Inoue.
Aye.
Senator Kanuha. Senator Keith Agaran. Senator Keo Hokalole. Senator Kidani.
Aye.
Senator Kim. Senator Lee. Senator McKelvey. Senator Moriwaki. Senator Rhodes. Senator Richards.
Aye.
Senator San Buenaventura. Senator Shimabukuro. Senator Wakai. Mr. President.
Aye.
24 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. The governor's veto of SB 921 has been overridden by the Senate.
No further business, Mr. President.
Are there any announcements today? If not, Senator Gabbard.
Mr. President, colleagues, I just want to say mahalo for passing the 5 hemp bills today. Personal privilege, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
You're helping a blossoming local industry that's experienced some struggles in the past few years. You may not recall, but it was December 14th, 1999, when Governor Cayetano proclaimed that day as Hawaii Hemp Day. And then the government fell asleep for 15 years, as it tends to do sometimes. So in 2014, at the request of a dear friend of mine, John Rogers, who recently passed away from cancer, I was honored to introduce SB 2175, which became Act 56, setting up a 2-year industrial hemp research program, and then more hemp-friendly bills passed in the ensuing years. So my hope then and now is to have Hawai'i become the hemp capital of the world based on our one-of-a-kind Hawaii branding and 365-day-a-year growing season. And while we've yet to reach that goal, today increases my optimism that we will get there. So again, mahalo nui loa. And by the way, I proclaim you all to be official hempsters, and hemp hemp hooray. Mahalo.
Hemp hemp hooray for you, Senator Gabbard. Further announcements? If not, the chair has one. Senator Wakai, when we adjourn, I have been informed that all floor amendments have been registered by 10:30 a.m. this morning. And so instead of 11:30, we will reconvene at 11 a.m. on Thursday, given the amount of floor amendments and fiscal bills we need to consider. Senator Wakai.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Thursday, May 4th.
Senator DeCoit.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. If there are no objections from the members, the Senate will stand adjourned until 11 a.m. Thursday.